So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, Aston Villa fans, and welcome to the Love of Paul McGrath podcast, post-match podcast after an absolutely electrifying game in Bosnia. A game you just couldn't take your eyes off. A game that really, really set the standard for European football, and a game that I think will go down in the annals of one of the greatest an English football team has ever taken part in the history of the world, because it was just end-to-end stuff. And I can't even do this joke anymore because it really wasn't. It was exactly how it's exactly kind of how I suppose deep down in my heart of hearts I would have wanted the game to go. Nice pedestrian game. No one got injured that we know of. It just was what it was, and we got it out of the way. It was a dead rubber for us. All we needed to do was not lose and not get any injuries. And onwards to the next portion of this competition in February, March of next year. Long trip to Bosnia. A lot of changes to the team, as we mentioned before. I hope everybody can hear me, actually. I'm just thinking there. But it's mic's a bit weird. I was thinking my mic might be a bit weird. And that's why my mic is a bit weird. Let me try and fix that. Probably
going to be even weirder. It could be a small bit better. Did you see what happens when Paddy's not here? The whole thing goes to pot when Paddy's not here. But you guys knew that already. I'll try and turn on my system here again, but I'll continue to keep on talking. Hopefully you guys can still hear me, or you can hear me a small bit better. Was better before? Okay, well, let's get back to the AirPods. So, and there. Once I get my mic here sorted, I'll pop it back on again. So yeah, look, it was one of those games that we just didn't want any injuries out of. Long trip to Bosnia. A lot of fans made their way over, but as I say, it was one that the Aston Villa would be happy to come out of with no injuries, and there we go. Now my better. No injuries, no extra bookings, no massive issues from that game whatsoever. And you could see it in the players. They went out there in massive conservation mode, with games coming this weekend and more games thick and fast into the Christmas season, and obviously coming off the back of two really tough games that they've played last week as well. So it was really professional in a lot of ways. That goal they scored at the end, Mostar scored at the end, was it was a fine shot. There was nothing Philip Marshall on his debut could do to save it. Just prior to that, he did kick the ball off Callum Chambers' back, but I thought he didn't look out of place inside in goals or with his kick outs or with his distribution. I thought he was absolutely fine. I suppose the biggest pat in the back has to go to Nicola Zaniolo coming on that late run into the box and getting that goal with a lovely touch and finishing it under the keeper. But I suppose really John McGinn's cross there was the catalyst for that. When he came on, he was only on a couple of minutes and he sets up a goal. So a game really is, as we've mentioned, that never really ignited. It looked exactly like a dead rubber for Aston Villa. Mostar were didn't even press on the ball at all in the first half, nor did they do it in the second half. And they let Aston Villa have a lot of the ball up until maybe the last 10, 15 minutes. And they got their goal, which was a banger, as I said. But Villa come out of this unscathed. And, as I said, today's performance for me was about individual performances. That's what I wanted to see. Didn't really get too many of those either, but Zaniolo's goal, Philip Marshall being okay in goals for a 19-year-old kid, and obviously seen Tommy O'Reilly, who we now find out is 100% Irish, apparently, according to the commentator. That was the commentary annoyed me slightly.
I thought both the punditry and the commentary were a bit like the Aston Villa kind of phoned it in today for lots of the match. I thought the commentary and the punditry did it as well. And the reason I say that is that there's just a couple of slips, like even in the dying embers of the game after Mostar scored. The commentator kept on saying that Aston Villa still needed to concede 2 more goals to not finish top. So he seemed to be unaware that finishing level on points with Legia would, it still didn't guarantee Villa to finish top, and maybe I've got that wrong, but I just thought there was a couple of strange things there. Obviously saying Tommy O'Reilly was Irish and things like that. The commentary I thought made the game even more boring than the game was in itself. But yeah, I think no. It seemed like the commentators didn't want to be commentating on the match, and it seemed like the pitch side pundits didn't want to be in Bosnia, didn't want to be commentating on it either. So it was like a game that people wanted to get out of the way, and unfortunately, as I say, it didn't light up or it didn't hit the heights of a European game. But professional it was, I think, from Aston Villa, and we go through on top of the league. So yeah. So I think it's definitely a positive from that point of view. And as Sai says there as well, please no more Martin Keown. Yeah, he sometimes he tends to talk in a kind of a slow paced, kind of monotone kind of aspect to it, to kind of sound like he's really knowledgeable about the topic, but he gets it wrong sometimes. I do too. But then again, I'm not getting paid by BT to be a commentator in a game, and I certainly haven't played the game at the highest level, so I expect him not to get it wrong. I don't dislike him. I've no problem listening to him. I just think sometimes he tries to be the smartest man in the room, and that's fine too. It's just, if you are trying to be the smartest man in the room, you got to have high standards for people are going to have high standards for you. That's my take on it as well. Going to come to some of your comments there. Gazhook said it was an utter shambles, lads, and I'm here for it. I think it was exactly what Aston Villa would have hoped for. A completely uneventful game. David Rubin says, nice goal from Zaniolo. Absolutely. Tom Ryan said it was a training session. And I think Gazhooks, I think you might have been talking about the one that was kicked off Callum Chambers' back and nearly bounced into the net. I think that's what you might have been on about there as well. Dave says, poor pitch, not a great performance, but more than happy just not to lose that one. Job done. Yeah, the pitch was poor. Yeah. The pitch looked like it was very grassy and it was dug up in places. But look, it was the same for both teams. I'm never really one that really buys into the whole just because they're paid a lot of money doesn't mean they can't play on poor pitches. You adapt to your surroundings. That's why you should be paid a lot of money. Is my thoughts. That's why you're good enough to play for the big teams, because you've played on pitches that weren't great before. So you should be able to adapt to your surroundings. But the pitch was poor tonight, I think, as well. Job done, says Matt Hans. Game of the year, says Joy. Game of the year. Yeah, I think so. I don't think it's going to make the Aston Villa 2023-24 season highlights DVD, but we'll give it that one anyway. We for tonight we'll call it Game of the Year, as it is. Where else are there? Yeah, Tom, did you notice between the two commentators they managed to say Zaniolo, and Zaniolo? They kept on getting his name wrong as well. That was another thing. I just think, as I say, it was just, I think a lot of people were only half interested in the game tonight, and it probably showed as well. Where else? And Anne O'Grady remarks on the fact that the commentator said that Tommy O'Reilly was an Irishman too. I don't know it's even eligible for Ireland, but I know that he was potentially going to be called up for an underage squad, and I think there was some eligibility issues for him. But he's certainly not born and bred Irishman anyway. Answers on a postcard if anybody knows the answer to that one. Melty Shirt says youth appearances, minutes for Moreno and Ramsey, etc. Goal for Zaniolo, no extra playoff games. That'll do. Absolutely. Ticking off the tick list of positives from the game. That's absolutely. They're all positives and can't fault that as well. Can't fault that too. Be Happy was impressed with Dendonker. And where else are we here with regards to this one? Harry Johnson says that Duran needs a loan. You could see Duran was frustrated tonight. I think he felt he could have got a goal, but just the game was just such a slow pace. He couldn't get on the ball at all. And when he did, he ended up kicking the sole of a fella's foot. And it was a great shot. I thought he was going to score with it. Even when the goalkeeper saved it, I thought it was going to be one of those ones that went up in the air and still bounces back into the net. But it looked a sore one. And he did very well to get his shot away. I don't know, does he need... obviously, if we bought a striker in January, yeah, send him out and loan. But you can see he's got real raw potential, though. Very frustrated today, though, and you could see it at times. There was one time in particular where he just booted the ball off the advertising hoarding behind. So he felt that today was the day he could have probably got another goal, but it wasn't to be, and we just couldn't get the ball to him. So, like, most strikers are going to be frustrated in that aspect. Where else are we? Yeah, so Sniffrat says, spare a thought for those poor buggers that travelled. I saw some interviews with the guys before. Like, it's a beautiful part of the country, part of the world. It seems. And look, regardless of the results, if you're going to travel to Bosnia, if you're like Max and Simon are out in Bosnia at the moment. They're traveling to Bosnia for the occasion. They're traveling for the memory, for the love of Aston Villa, and I think the result will be secondary. Still, though, I hope everybody is safe. I hope everybody is safe out there. Just, you know, like after a football match, I think I saw on social media that you know, people were being encouraged not to wear their colours after the game or before the game. Maybe that might be good advice. I would say, but beautiful part of the country. Everyone seems to be pretty friendly from what I've seen on social media. Nothing massive, but yeah, I just always hope people stay safe when they're out and abroad. Specifically when there's so few numbers that have travelled to the game. You know, it's important that everybody gets home. Should I say? Okay, stop yawning. I think it was that game. It could be that game, or it could be the 200 odd kilometers that I've traveled this afternoon in the car, but still, we do it for the love of it. As I said, we do it for the love of it. Richard Edwards says the touch from Zaniolo, I presume that was the touch from Zaniolo was sublime. It was. I thought it was a really great touch for his goal. Took it down lovely, slatted it in past the goalkeeper. Fair play to him. Hopefully his confidence grows from that. Didn't do much more after that, but as I say, you know, once Villa went 1-0 up, I always felt they were never going to lose 2-1, and once you go 1-0 up, you can always afford to concede a goal and still go through. So you know, that goal was important, and well done to Zaniolo for getting it. And then we've got two completely counter viewpoints, I suppose. MC says Zaniolo was shite all game and just happened to be in the right place at the right time for the goal. No skill. Well, some people might say that being in the right place at the right time and having a touch like he did is a skill. But as I say, people are going to see things completely differently. I thought, you know, drifting inside there, it was something that I wanted to see more of, and getting into that position is something I want to see him do more of in games as well. Where else are we? Yes, surely Tommy is one of the O'Reillys from Belturbet and Cavan. Look, I suppose he's got to do his 22 and me, 23 and me. What Ancestry.com we'll just go with. I think that's the Irish version. Is Ancestry.com. If he does it and he can prove it, well then I'll give him my own passport myself. Because we need all the players we can get. Nigel Franklin says we'll always forgive Keown anything after seeing him put Vinnie Jones into the front row of the Witten. Now there's a scrap. In fairness to Martin Keown, like, it's all well and good, like talking about him here, but I certainly wouldn't like to meet him in a dark alley. I'd say he'd be some man to scrap as well, and I'd say himself and Vinnie Jones would be a fair boxer. Like, I'd prefer to watch that on the undercard of, actually, I prefer to watch it more than Anthony Joshua and the Wallen guy that are fighting soon, because I think it'd probably be a better fight. But yeah, I think I'd like to watch that scrap. I think that'd be a nice scrap between Vinnie Jones and Martin Keown, because they are both fairly agriculturally tough men, I think, for all the rest of the things that could maybe said about them, for sure. Ron Bright says, delighted not to have to play them again. They're a bloody awkward team to play, a very canny side. Like, do you know what I must say about them? And in fairness, we did talk about it being a drab game, but it was like an international match, to be honest with you. It was like an international game. And I'm sorry, I'm yawning again. Their coach is only a standing coach. Like, he's only an interim coach, if I'm not mistaken. He's only been with the team for the last 6 or 7 games. And to be able to put a team out that's regimented like that is a serious feather in the cap for him. So they were to be dogged, to be resolute, to try and keep things tight. And in both games they did that. In both games they did that against Aston Villa. And in both games we found it difficult to break them down. So kudos to them for that. Where else are we? You couldn't. Where else are we? Sorry, guys. I'm trying to look at the comments here, but I keep on bouncing up here. Anna Grady says, I saw McGinn at the end calling the other players to go and acknowledge the fans who travelled. Exactly. That's exactly what I meant to say that when I was talking about the people who travelled. Huge distance. Some people. Obviously, there's fellas who loaded themselves into a van, got the Eurostar and drove down. Fair play to those guys. But there's also people who flew into Zagreb, got flights down, then from there, or flew into North Macedonia and got flights from there, or flew to Sarajevo and caught a taxi across, or caught a train across and stuff. So there wasn't just one prescribed route to get to Mostar today. It was it seemed to be trains, planes, and automobiles for a lot of people, and fair play to that. And that goes a long way, because, as I said in the preseason or in the preview for the pre-match, that it still lasts long in the mind, the CSKA Moscow fiasco, whereby not only were flights delayed and it took ages for fans to get home, but they also had to see Villa go out there and put out an understrength team and end up going limply out of the competition. And a lot of fans didn't really ever forgive Martin O'Neill for that in that season, because we never did get on to get Champions League football. I'm not saying that there's a correlation between that game and this game, but it's just important, I suppose, to acknowledge it. Look, fans spend their money as and how they see fit. And the fans there that would have gone to it if we put out our under 6s team. Villa under 6s in that game today. They would have gone to it for the occasion, for the love of Aston Villa, as I said before there. But still, there is a kind of a social contract between the club and the fan base to at least acknowledge the efforts. And if it was an Aston Villa under 6s team, you would expect them all to go down and applaud the fans in the bottom corner. So, regardless of the team that was out there, fair play to John McGinn for doing that. And I think they would have gone down anyway. It's not a case if they were trudging down the tunnel or anything, but it's important that when you've got a leader that you can keep the fans connected, specifically people who travel such a long distance. So that was great. As Michael Huggins says here as well, there's over 300 people here in the post match, and it's difficult to talk post match about this one. I'll be honest with you, specifically on my own, because I don't think anything of note happened in the first half, and I think the only two things of note really were when Philip Marshall kicked the ball off Callum Chambers, when Zaniolo put the ball in the back of the net, and when they scored a bit of a wonder strike that took a bit of a deflection. After that, John Duran kicked the sole of a person's foot. Wasn't really anything else that happened in the game. But there are over 300 of you in there. It takes 1 second to hit the thumbs up. If you're commenting in the comments, that means that you can just click the thumbs up as well. That means you've subscribed. You've signed into your YouTube account. So if you could do that, I'd really, really appreciate it. Bolg says the cross from McGinn was brilliant. He slipped as well. If he was an NFL quarterback, he'd be making really low percentage completions. I'm renaming him Patrick Mac Holmes. I'll take that. I'll give you that, Bolg. I'll give you that. I'll give you the pun on Mahomes' name for sure. But McGinn's just playing out of his skin at the moment. He really, really is. Since Unai Emery's come in, it's been no secret how much better he's been within the side. But the talismanic captain moniker is beginning to suit him. It really, really is. And getting minutes in the legs tonight, I'm sure he would have asked for that. As I've said before, he's a bit of a mutant. Like, he doesn't shy away from the physical exertions of the game of football. He fully understands that he's only got X amount of years in the game, and he wants to make the most of them, and he wants to be known for something. There's quite a lot of players, I think, that you can look at that will mind themselves, and then nothing ever happens for them, and then they kind of get thought of as nearly men, or they kind of they stood for nothing, so they never get remembered for anything, really. And that's being facetious in a lot of ways, because look, they're professional footballers. They're better at the game of football than 95% of the ever-growing population. But I think for John McGinn, he wants to be known as this incredibly loyal, incredibly energetic, incredibly just a guy who gets the game of football and loves it. And he's our captain, and I think we should remember him for that, because, as I say, he comes on tonight, pops in a lovely cross, but everything else that he's doing for this club, or that he's grown into since Unai Emery has come into the club, along with various other players. He really has been one that's embraced it so much. And I think when you've got leadership like that within the team, it's very easy for the rest of the team to roar around it, specifically in the times since we've lost Tyrone Mings as well. So John McGinn does deserve special praise for that as well. Oh yes, Diego Carlos's goal from the corner. I don't know, was there a foul? I know they tried to make a foul out of it, but look, there was a bit of jostling, I'm sure, as there is at every single corner. But Douglas Luiz can just pop it in that back post at will. He really can. And I know most goalkeepers get to that and they save it, because the goalkeeper was absolutely rubbish coming for the ball. He was just in no man's land, because he was terrified what was going to happen, and then it happened, but Douglas Luiz, he puts it on that back post every time, or in that vicinity. It's just a really deadly skill to have. It's a brilliant skill to have. And I know, look, he scored 2 last season, and this season they still talk about it and stuff. But I think you should, because it's a very dangerous. It's like, you have to defend it. You can't assume it's going to go wide, or that it's going to go over, or that the person in the back post is going to hit it, because the trajectory of that ball comes in, the goalkeeper has to come for it. They just have to, because if that person is on the back post and they go to hit it, that's one of the ones that they will head it up off the crossbar or up into the roof of the net. Just the way the trajectory, the way the ball comes in, you can't take the liberty of trying to flick it back past the back post and out for another corner, because you just won't. The way the ball is spinning, it will go directly behind you, if that makes sense. So fair play to Douglas Luiz. That was class as well today. And we will miss him at the weekend. We will miss him for sure. Aaron, where is it? Aaron Dean says, McGinn documentary is worth to watch. I've sent it last night. I didn't get a chance to watch it. So I think that's what I'm going to do later on. No, actually, directly after this podcast, I'm going to go and I'm going to watch the McGinn documentary. Paddy said it was class. So, you know the way. I can't not take Paddy's recommendation for it. And someone's telling me, Dev Bond says, love the top, Neil. Yeah, I really like this. I think it's fast becoming my new favorite shirt. And it does have Savo 9 on the back of it. But it's I think it's just a nice shirt. I think it is just a nice shirt as well. Maybe it might go on a frame. I don't know. Chad makes a good point as well. He said he thinks Matty Cash struggled tonight. I think Matty Cash, I spoke about the field. I think Matty Cash struggled with the turf tonight. A couple of times he overran the ball, couldn't get the ball out of his feet. Got in around the box and was wasteful with the ball. But yeah, I saw on social media that a couple of people were saying, yeah, I'm not really sure Matty Cash is going to be here this time next year. I think we've said that about an awful lot of players that have been going through lulls in form, and they've just found it under Unai Emery. I think probably at this time last year, or maybe even March of last year, we were talking about Matty Cash maybe not being the person that Unai Emery wanted in there. Was it going to be Ashley Young, and what were we going to do at right back? And and Matty Cash, nailed down that position for a finish. But he is he's not being favoured in that right back position, and Konza's been favoured in there in games of huge importance. So I wonder, maybe he was trying too hard, maybe to win back his position tonight. But I've no doubt that he can steady the ship there as well, for sure. But you're right, I think you're right, Chad, that there was a couple of instances tonight, I think, where he was trying to push the boat out too far, and it didn't really work for him as well. Adamski, so a couple of people are asking about, Caden asks about Longley tonight, and Adamski says, Longley been whining about game time, or Barca have on his behalf, Unai not having it probably. No, I think Longley is not long for Villa. I think he's on his way to Bayern Munich for 15 million. Been a lot of smoke around that at the minute. So I'd say that we will probably be dipping into the market for maybe another centre half during the January window, if that does happen. But at the end of the day, he's our player. He's on loan to us, so we have to agree to break the loan. And maybe we do that with Longley. Maybe we do it with Zaniolo as well. I don't know, but I suppose it really does. Like Longley came in late in the day because Tyrone Mings gets injured. Zaniolo comes in late in the day because Buendia gets injured. Maybe if we were to sign people in January, which I think we will sign people, but I don't think it's a lock that if we do, that we cancel the loans for those two players, because I think both players have massive potential and have so much more to offer Aston Villa. But in an instance like that, where if Longley does decide he wants to go to Bayern Munich, and let's be honest, why wouldn't he? Maybe if there was some financial gain for Aston Villa from that point of view, on top of not having to pay the rest of his contract for the rest of the year, because he's on a pretty big chunk, maybe they take up that offer and they cancel the loan. But I don't think they do it willy-nilly. I think there's nothing to be I think it will be addition in the January transfer window as opposed to subtraction, if that makes sense. And I don't think it'll be a case of one in, one out either for the January transfer window. So yeah, but I think Longley probably, I would imagine that he wants to move to Barca, and I would imagine that discussions will take place between Aston Villa, the move to Bayern Munich. I would say that discussions will take place between all four parties, between Munich, Villa, Barcelona, and Clement Longley's representatives as well, to try and trash something out. I just think it makes too much sense for the player himself, specifically when he's only on loan at Aston Villa, which is a shame, because I think the last game he played for Villa was probably his best game in a Villa shirt, albeit he's only had like 3 or 4, but still. Yeah, I'm probably going to come back again tomorrow, or we will be back again tomorrow, I think, with a Brentford preview, but there isn't too much more to talk about this game. If you guys don't mind as well, it's been a long day. It's been a 5 a.m. start for me today, and I'm not giving out. I'm just pointing out that the clock said 5 a.m. when I turned on the car this morning. But I don't think I could do much more talking about that game, because there just wasn't an awful lot to go on. But we will be back tomorrow with a Brentford preview. And obviously we will be here with Team Sheet Tantrum and post-match for the Brentford game as well. But we draw a line under the Europa Conference League for a period of time now until the knockout stages come ticking fast for us, and we will be certainly up for those. But Premier League takes full stage now for the next month or so, until the FA Cup third round kicks into action, and we will be here with you every single step of the way. And also, we'll probably have a couple of transfer podcasts thrown in between now and the start of the window on the 1st of January, because we've been linked with 1 or 2 exciting players, I think, so far. Whether those links are real or not, I'll cover them, and if they come true, they come true. If they don't, they don't. But it's all part of the crack, and I hope you'll join me for that. But in the meantime, everybody, we will be back, as I say, with a preview for Brentford tomorrow. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and all that's left to say is up the Villa.